Hello, welcome to the first episode of Talking Hearthstone. My name's Tito Santana. I'm your host. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. If you've never heard of me, I am a Hearthstone streamer. I'm also the host of the Bread and Butter Hearthstone podcast, and I am a member of Amberflight Gaming. So, you may be asking, if I already have a podcast, why am I starting to do another one? Well, I have two goals with this podcast. The first goal is I want to be able to talk more about Hearthstone. I like to talk. I love Hearthstone. I like to do it more. So while Bread and Butter is a great show, it's an interview show, and we focus on improving your game, and we try to cover evergreen topics like tilt and planning your turns ahead of time and mulligans and so on. And the interviews we have such wonderful people like Pocket Train, Dragon Rider, Lorenda, Wicked Good, many people in the Hearthstone community that you probably know much better than you know me. So while we do touch on the news and some hot topics, we don't tend to focus on that because there are other podcasts out there for that. But I do want to talk about these things. The second goal is one of the great things that Blister Guy has done on his Work podcast is that he, at the end of most episodes, talks through some of his games. So not only does that provide a bit of mental engagement because you're picturing games in your head as he describes it rather than seeing it on the screen, but I also think it's a great opportunity for visually impaired folks who they might be able to follow along via game sounds and the bits that people say about the games when they're streaming or they're doing YouTube videos. But most of the time, they're not talking through everything. They're not telling you what the opponent drew, what you drew, what discarded, what ran into what, because we can see that happening. So there has really been no need for us to explain all that, but that's kind of a gap that I've been told is nice that has come from Blister Guy is he talks through this and it gives them an opportunity to get like an actual description of what's happening in the game, kind of like when you go on the radio when you listen to a baseball game or a basketball game or whatnot. One of my favorite things that I used to love to do as a Red Sox fan is when I had to drive a couple hours, I used to try to time it when there was a baseball game on because I just loved listening to them talk about baseball or a basketball game and hear it in my head as I'm traveling. So I think that we're missing some opportunities for folks out there by not having that kind of content out there outside, again, from Blister Guy. So I'm hoping that he won't mind too much if I do something a little similar here. We'll obviously not walking anywhere, but we will try to, continue on and add a little bit more content like that. I know I said two goals. I'm going to say goal 2.5 is I want to have some short content. I don't want to go really more than 30 minutes on average. We'll see how that goes. I know I can talk a lot depending on how long games go. I'm not going to hold fast and tight to that. We're not going to do the play for tempo thing where we say 30 minutes or less guaranteed because I know how much I can talk and I know how long games can go. But we will try to keep it fairly short as much as possible just to give you a little kind of, quick hit content. Maybe if you're just going down to the store or whatnot. So as far as gameplay, I don't plan on curating only winning games or necessarily only keeping games if they're super interesting. I know that's probably the way I should do it, but I'm planning on doing some recording of games live after I talk, and I don't want to re-record if, say, the game wasn't that interesting. And I'm not sure how many games I'll do, maybe 2, maybe 1, maybe 3, depending on how things go, what deck we're doing and whatnot. As far as the games themselves, I plan on doing 3 different things. I plan on, most of the time, the plan will be to just play a game or 2 at the end of a podcast. We'll talk through the deck that we're playing there. And then we will, we'll talk through the deck. We'll talk through possibly some of our thoughts. We'll talk through the matchup. And we'll talk through the game as we go. I will also like I mentioned, I stream. So if I have some interesting games, or if maybe I play somebody interesting, or maybe both, I might take one of those VODs and play through the VOD. And even though I had already played it, I will talk through it, talk about the decisions I think I was thinking at the time and whatnot, and still kind of go through the entire game. And if any listeners or friends send me games that might be interesting, either they send me the replays or the VODs, I might talk through those as well. Sometimes, so we'll see, but that's kind of the general goal. So this is a new podcast. I don't know I know what I'm doing as far as maybe editing and talking about Hearthstone, but I don't know what the general end shape of this podcast will be. So I look forward to getting any possible feedback from listeners on what they like, what they don't like. Keep in mind, if you don't like something and more people do, I might stay with it. If I like something, and you know how it is, I'm looking for feedback, and we'll take it under advisement and figure out how things go. But yeah, so those are my goals. But what am I really doing having a second podcast? Like, why? And the reason why is I want to reach out more people for my content. I work hard on what I do. Bread and butter, I think we have amazing guests, like I said. We have great topics. And I think we have a great premise. We're not the same podcast as Squelch, Coin Concede, Walk to Work, and whatnot. We are an interview podcast every week, just about. I mean, there will be weeks where we don't have interviews, and sometimes we have returning guests. But we have... it's more than just me and Doc McButt, my co-host. And the topics we will revisit, but we like to talk about topics that are valuable and not just of the moment. It's not just the hot topics. It's the how do I improve on this or whatnot. And sometimes you might find a topic, like we just had a topic the other day, which was how to stop making stupid mistakes. And we went through a lot of stupid mistakes and maybe too much. But it just kind of reinforced that you're not the only one making these mistakes. So how do we make them better? And just improving on those mistakes might make your game percentage wins go up by 3%, 4%, 5% just by stopping doing stupid things. If you're focusing on that, then the rest of it, the matchup knowledge and all that, that'll come and that'll help your game as well. But the biggest thing you can do is to not make it easy for your opponent. The unforced errors that make it easy for your opponent. So we talked about that and all that, but I want to, just get more people into my content. I want to get people into my stream. I want to, even make this something, and hopefully we are entertaining, and really we just want to have some fun and talk Hearthstone, because Hearthstone is a game and we love talking about it. Let's talk about schedule. I know I'm going along a little winded here, but we're kind of setting things up. I want to have a semi-set schedule of maybe an episode per week. I don't plan on doing the Blister Guy thing of 3 days per week, because I already have another podcast, I already have streaming, I already have other things going on. I'm probably biting off more than I can do by adding another thing here. Anyway, but I want to do one episode per week where we are talking about just general things and playing a game. But I also want to be able to add impromptu episodes as I go. Maybe I had a particularly interesting game and we'll just throw a game or two out there during the week. And I also want to be able to do something that Wicked Good used to do on Off Curve, which was when there was information that was just released, like maybe patch notes or something majorly that changed. He would do an episode pretty much right away, and we'd get an episode within a couple hours or within a few hours if he could. With ideas about, hey, what does this change? What does this patch note mean to us? How do we think it's going to affect the meta? Are the decks now going to be dead? What should we, what direction maybe might be a good idea to go from there? I'm not saying I'm going to be right, but I'm going to give you an opinion, and I'm going to believe in my opinion. And, hopefully the more we talk about it, the more we'll have, the more we'll improve upon our takes. But for now, we're just going to have some fun and hopefully at least get you the news. So that way, if you heard there was a patch, but you haven't had a chance to look at it yet and you're driving home, you can put on this podcast. Maybe we'll have an episode already. Maybe you'll have some primer. So when you get home to read the patch notes, you'll already know a little bit about it. So I'm kind of looking forward to doing that. So I'm kind of really, like I said, I'm really kind of trying to make this a hybrid of what Off Curve used to be and what Walk to Work is right now. Both Wicked and Blister Guy are podcasters and members of the community that I really look up to, and I hope they don't mind that I'm emulating what they do a little bit. I'm not trying to break into their space or steal their audiences from Coin Concede or Walk to Work. I'm just trying to give something else out there that people might enjoy. And finally, like I said, Hearthstone has a huge sight-impaired community, way bigger than I thought it was, and having a little more content that makes it easier for them to consume the game seems like a good thing. So that's the primer. Now let's talk about the news of the week. And the news of the week is very exciting. We got a new expansion announced on a Monday, which was strange. We got the announcement on the Monday, and we got the patch on a Monday, which normally we get those on Tuesday. So that was interesting. They did that. I wonder, they've been bringing things back a little bit. It seems like we are ahead of schedule from last year as far as the cadence of releasing the mini sets and the expansion. So I think they're trying to buffer themselves in the end, so that way there's not this time at the end of the holidays, the end of the year, where they release a patch and then we're just stuck with it for a couple weeks if something goes wrong because they're on vacation and they deserve to take time off. So I'm interested to see what happens with that. But having it on a Monday was nice. Now we have a full week to talk about things, and it really wasn't telegraphed too early. We had, I think, a little indication of what was coming. There were some leaks. I don't know if I don't look at leaks. I don't like leaks. I promise you that I will never talk about leaks on the show except to mention that there were leaks. I think that the developers worked too hard to have their announcements spoiled. Like if you put all that work into the surprise party and somebody tells your person that you're surprising the day before that they're having a surprise party, it's kind of a bummer, especially if you made a lot of hard work to make these things happen. So no spoilers here, I promise. But let's talk about the mechanics of Perils in Paradise that we learned about. First off, as far as we know, this was a set that was led by Sage Giorgio, Just a Guy's son and Cora's brother. This is his first set lead endeavor, and it seems very interesting, so I'm looking forward to that. Before we actually talk about the actual set, they did bring back Gen and Baku into the core set, and if you're thinking, well, that's kind of a bad idea, it's only for a month. They're only bringing it out until the set drops, so I kind of like that. They have been trying to find different ways to spice up the meta where they can, and this seems fairly innocuous. There is what we've seen of them so far is they haven't been overpowered like they used to be. We've seen a lot of people trying things like handlock, even handlock. I lost to an even handlock yesterday against Funky Monkey, where they not only got Sargeras out of their ETC, but they also regenerated it with Endgame, and that didn't go well for me. But I think it's a fun little idea. It's nice to have them back. It's nice to show that, hey, they're not as powerful as they used to be, and it's fun to just, have something that can shake up the meta without really maybe nerfing cards that don't need to be nerfed and whatnot. I personally think the meta's in an okay spot. I know a lot of people get bored this time of year. I tend to like a semi-solved meta where I can focus on skills and improving against the competition versus trying to solve new issues and figure out why the deck I was playing isn't doing as well anymore. But anyway, so the keyword that they've introduced for Perils in Paradise is Taurus. So it's not really a keyword. I mean, it is, but it isn't. So what Taurus does is it allows you to take, if you deck build with the Taurus in your deck, each Taurus has a class that they are visiting. So if you are a priest, your Taurus card is going to give you hunter cards. And it's not all hunter cards, it's only cards from the set. So there's no limit on the cards you can put from the set outside of how many cards there are. So you could potentially build an almost full hunter deck in Priest, but it would only be with cards from Perils in Paradise, so I doubt that would be very good. But it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting way to do dual class cards, because I know they did dual class cards in some of the mini sets recently, and for example, a couple of the cards that were dual class between Druid and Priest, they got nerfed because of the things that Druid were doing with them before Priest really found a home for them. So those cards got nerfed before they could do anything. So this is an interesting take on it. One thing I do like is that it's not going to... I personally would like it if you could probably, Taurus to any class from any class and really see what you can come with. come up with, but the balance on that would be a nightmare. I can't even imagine what the balance is going to be like with this. Whereas if you are going to have to maybe nerf a hunter card because it's extra good in priest, even if it's not that good in hunter. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But I think this is maybe kind of maybe they're dipping their toe into mechanics like this. Maybe we're going to start seeing some more of this in the future. So who knows? So hopefully people enjoy it and it works out pretty well. One nice thing about tourists is a lot of times when you have something like this, it's almost like a tax. Like when you're playing Ben and Gen and Baku, those cards weren't good cards. The effect was amazing. You needed them in your deck, but you never really wanted to play them, right? They were always cards that, like, well, I have the mana, I don't have anything else to do, I'll play them. And they weren't really well statted for the cost. But in this case, the tourists seem to have effects like the Paladin one has an effect that says your spells that cost 2 less cast twice. 2 or less, excuse me. So there are ways to generate 1-cost spells, like there is something that generates sunscreens, which are 1 mana, 1/2 buff spells. So being able to take that 1/2 buff spell for 1 mana and make it a 2/4, that seems interesting. It seems fun. I like that they're not dead cards outside of their purpose. So we'll see how the rest of them go. Some of them will be better than others. I believe the Shaman Tourist for one class is that I could be wrong, but it's Death Knight legendary named Buttons. And I think that if you play it, it either draws or discovers cards from each spell class. So I think that'll be fun. It'll be interesting. As far as I know, I don't have the cards in front of me right now. I did that intentionally because I knew I was going to talk a lot this episode, and I didn't want to dive into the cards at this point. We are going to talk about the set as we come up in the next few weeks, but we'll do that as classes as a whole and not necessarily each individual card, because then if we did that, there have been horror stories of people going through entire sets taking 4 hours, 6 hours to talk through the entire thing. We do not plan on doing that. I might do a day per class. We'll see. We have time to figure that out. Outside of that, they also have another mechanic that's not really a named mechanic like they do sometimes. Like they had the tradable ones, the wind up in Whizbang's workshop. And while there's kind of a theme that goes through a few sets of cards, they don't really have a keyword. This time it's drinks. And drinks are kind of like Twin Spell, only you can cast them 3 times. So much like Bananas or Barrel of Monkeys, where you had 3 different times to cast it from 1 card. Same thing. Like the one we saw was called Magma something. It was a drink, and every time you played it, you dealt 1 damage to all minions. So you could do that 3 times. Not sure how powerful they'll be. I'm sure there'll be some that'll break the game in some way that someone will figure out. But overall, they seem pretty low powered from what we've seen so far, and just general utility cards. So I'm looking forward to that. But now it's time to actually play a game. I think to this first episode, we're already 18 minutes in, so I think we are going to go over just a little bit, but that's fine. So today we're going to play Insanity Lock. I had a coaching this morning with Wicked Good. Transition here. We're going to pull the deck up. We'll talk about it real quick. So, Insanity Lock. The basic goal of this is to do chip damage early with cards like your Baritone Imp, your Crazed Conductors. In fact, this is a fairly low to the ground deck. You have 2 Crazed Conductors at 4, Popgar at 4, and Symphony at 5. Everything else is 3 or less. But you might think that the goal of the deck is to play your Encroaching Insanities and then crescendo on top of those, which, yes, that is a good way to win at times. But for the most part, you want to get that chip damage in early. You want to build up those charges of fatigue and then hopefully finish them over the top. So the deck that I'm playing now has 2 Fellstring Harps, 2 Frackings, 2 Miracle Salesmen, 2 Void Virtuosos, 2 Baritone Imps, 2 Crescendos, 2 Elementium Geodes, 2 Thornveil Tentacles, 2 Domino Effects, 2 Encroaching Insanities, 1 Furnace Fuel, 1 Fizzle, 2 Trog Gem Tossers, 2 Trolley Problems, 2 Craze Conductors. Be great if we could have 4 Craze Conductors. A Popgar, and like I said, the Symphony of Sins. Now, as I'm going through the show, I'm not planning on explaining what each card is always. I'm going to try to explain it as it seems to be required. So as you guys are all giving me feedback, please let me know if I'm not describing cards enough or if I'm describing them too much, so we can figure out the right amount of description we can do. So let's go ahead and give this. We're only going to do one game today because we are going pretty long with our introduction. But let's go ahead and see what we can do here. So far, we played this morning, like I said, with Wicked Good. I had my Coin Conceive coaching, which is if you are a patron of Coin Conceive for $10 or more, you get a coaching with one of the hosts every month. And it is, in some cases, it's less of a coaching and it's more of a co-op, but it's well worth it. And I've been doing it for a while, and I highly recommend it. So here we go. Here's our first game. We are doing a mirror match. We are facing off against... Well, I can't say it's a mirror match, but we're facing off another against a Warlock. Okay, we are going to assume that we are facing another Insanity Lock and not necessarily the hand lock, the even hand lock. So I'm going to play for the fact that I think that's what I'm playing. So we have a Domino Effect, an Elemental Geode, and a Baritone Imp in hand. I'm not going to keep the Domino Effect because I don't think we need that in this particular matchup, at least not this time. I am tempted to toss the Geode, but I'm going to keep both of those. You're always going to keep Baritone Imp, or I believe 99% of the time I'm going to keep Baritone Imp. So I'm going to keep Elemental Geode and Baritone Imp, and we'll see what else we draw. We have drawn a Thornveil Tentacle, which is nice. It's a good start. So we drew a Gem Tosser on our first draw. We have nothing we can do on turn 1, so we are going to pass. Our opponent is going to play Miracle Salesman, the perfect turn 1 card. Oh, and they are going to coin out a second Miracle Salesman, so they're already looking to be super aggressive here. I like it. We just drew a Trolley Problem, which actually could be very useful next turn if we don't happen to draw a spell that we're worried about getting rid of. We have taken no damage thus far. We have an Elemental Geode that we could play to gain extra card, and we have a Thornveil, which we could play that would kill one of the salesmen, but we also don't want to waste the healing on that quite yet, I don't think. So I think our best option here is to just play the Baritone Imp, take a fatigue damage, and move forward. Also, please let me know if the volume on the game is too loud, not loud enough, how my volume versus the game volume is. So, our opponent ran a Miracle Salesman into our Baritone Imp, and then they also played a Thornveil, killing that minion, and they sent their Miracle Salesman face. So I drew a Furnace Fuel, which is actually very good for us because now we can Trolley Problem. We will discard the Furnace Fuel, drawing 2 cards, a Crazed Conductor, which is wonderful, and we also have a Crescendo, which is exactly what we want. So we're going to run our 3 3s into their 2 2s and pass a turn. I am currently at 27 health. They are currently at 30 health. I have 2 3-1 Trolley Problems on hand. And they play a Gem Tosser, which kills 2, not 3 of my minions. So we just draw a Fizzle. A Fizzle is an interesting card in this deck because you want to get it to a place where you have good cards for ending the game, but you also don't want to have it to be too many cards in because otherwise you won't be able to play the Snapshot and get the cards you need. So we have 4 mana. We are definitely going to Thornveil Tentacle, or almost definitely, to kill off the Trog Gem Tosser and go face with the Tram card. But I think first we can Elemental Geode and see what we're getting off of that. We have another Baritone Imp, which I really like. Alright. So I am tempted to play the Imp and run my Tram car into the Gem Tosser, because then we set up for a Crazed Conductor turn next turn with a little bit more fatigue. But I also think that we'd rather keep stuff on board and gain a little bit of health. So I'm going to play the Thornveil Tentacle, kill their Trog. We're going to go face with the Tramcar, and in turn, they're at 27 health. We are at 25 health. So, they play their own trolley problem, which they top-decked because either they top-decked or they didn't. Oh, no, they definitely top-decked. And then they traded their snake oil. They clear my geode, which draws me a domino effect, which is actually probably really good in this matchup at this point. On the fact that we would probably get a deck full of crazed conductors on their side, and we can clear those relatively easily. So what do we like here? I like... We're staring down 2/3/1 trolleys. I have my own 3/1 trolley. I like playing the Baritone Imp here to make a 5/5, take 2 fatigue damage. I'm sorry, a 4/4, I apologize. And then we're going to Gem Tosser here, and hopefully we'll hit the 3/1s. Which we do. We send 3 more damage face. We send our trolley face, and we end our turn. We are now at 23 health, or at 21 health. We have a board of a trolley with a 3/1. We have a Baritone Imp at 4/4. And we have a Trog. They just played a Crazed Conductor for 1 Imp, which is fine. I don't think we have to worry about playing Domino Effect here, because that would clear one of them. We could run into things, but I don't think that's really what we want to do here. I think what we like here is potentially... What do we like? Alright. I'm going to ship all my damage face. So we're going to send 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage face. So if I fatigue twice, so if I play Crescendo, Insanity, that makes them take 3, 4, 7, and then we Crescendo and we win the game. So we play Encroaching Insanity, which does 3, 2, 4 damage to them, 3 damage to me. So they are at 5 health. I am at 16 health. I'm going to play Crescendo. That's going to go over the top, deal 5 damage, and we win on turn 6. Pretty much letting them help us build up fatigue damage with that last Crazed Conductor. So, I think overall we played that very well. I don't think there was any real questionable decisions that we regret looking back upon it. I'm sure there were different lines we could have taken, but overall it felt pretty straightforward. So, I think for our first episode, that is about going to do it. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Tito Santana HS. You can also email the show directly at talkinhearthstone@gmail.com. That's TalkinHearthstone@gmail.com. That is done intentionally because we are talking with an apostrophe and not talking, because we are from New England and we tend to leave letters at the end of our words off, so it seemed appropriate. You can also follow this show, which we just opened up a Twitter, and it's called Talkin HS, TalkinHS. My family is leaving on Saturday for a week, and I am starting a new part-time job while I'm looking for real software work. But outside of that, this seemed like the perfect time to stream a lot and build up some engagement. So next week, I don't have the schedule out yet, but over the next couple of days, I'm going to figure out what we're doing. We're going to have Tito's Totally Terrific Twitch Takeover. That's a mouthful, and I like it that way. Don't mean that in a Blizzard way. But I hope you can stop by and tell me that you mentioned the show if you heard us from the show, or how maybe you've heard about it. We are going to try to have some fun where we play a lot of Hearthstone, because that's what we do. I'm going to maybe try to play some games that I am in the middle of that I need to finish up. There's Plague Tale Innocence. There is Inscription. There is Hades 2 that I've got to start on. And I think there might be one more. So I'll be doing a little bit of that, but it'll mostly be Hearthstone. I'm hoping to have some co-ops. There's a chance that we might have... none of these are guaranteed, so please don't say that, hey, you told us this person was going to be there. But we may be doing some arena runs with the guidance of Judge. We might have Draco Cat stop by to do some co-op with some Demon Hunter. Been a while for him. So I think that's about it. If you are in my stream at night or during the day or next week or whatever, and you are sight impaired, please let me know. Because I'm probably jamming, listening to music, playing Hearthstone, having a good time. But if I know you're there, I'm still going to have a good time, but I'm going to try to be a little bit more vocal. So that way I know that I am going to hopefully give you guys a little more information about what's going on. The earlier you let me know, the more we can engage with you and the more we can make that happen. Now, to sign off the show, I don't really quite have a catchphrase yet. I'll figure one out. But for now, I'm just going to say, thanks for listening.